Well, joining me now from Karachi is Pakistan's Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Mr. Bhutto Zardari, Foreign Minister, thank you so much for joining us here on the programme. You've said this is a catastrophe. I was speaking to the Climate Minister at the weekend who said she's seen nothing like this before. Just give our audiences a sense of how bad it is.
That's exactly right. This is even though Pakistan has faced floods before, we have faced climate disasters before. It feels like we haven't seen anything quite of this scale. 33 million people affected is a figure that is extremely large to cater for the amount of area that has been affected in Pakistan simultaneously, has stretched our resources, our human resources, and the resources that we need for relief. This is a compounded tragedy in the sense that the monsoon started in June and kept going up until now. We're at the end of August. The cumulative effect of which has meant that 30 districts of my home province, Sindh, and I think 70 overall have been affected by these monsoon rains. As you mentioned, there's since been flooding in the Kabul River up north that has to come downstream. It's yet to be seen what the impact of that will be, but obviously we're bracing for any potential further damage.
I mean, there are some, from the images we're seeing, Bilawal, there are some areas that look like one big ocean. And in fact, I mean, some areas are so remote. When we talk about the death toll, you don't actually know the correct numbers, do you, at this stage? Because it's hard to get communications.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We're still coming to grips with the extent of the damage and the sort of the uniqueness about. But from our perspective here in Sindh, what's unique this time around is, as we've seen floods in the past, whether it's 2010 or 2011, they either affect the right bank of the Indus or the left bank of the Indus. This time, we're flooded all over. And that is what's stretching our resources even more. What you could do in the past is, where the limited areas affected, is you concentrate your resources and affect those people in need. When the devastation is so extensive, it makes it all the more difficult. As you mentioned, to do with the death toll, so far 1,500 deaths have been reported from these floods, a third of which are children. Going forward, because of the extent of the flooding, the waters will stay in the province of Sindh for some time, not only because of the monsoon rains that have inundated us, but because all the water up north does have to come down south. So we'll have to then confront issues such as waterborne diseases and healthcare-related issues.
Yeah, and what do you need most urgently from the international community? We know that UN member states have been asked to contribute and to help, but in the first instance, what are you calling for?
So the most important need for us right now are tents. 33 million families affected is a huge number, obviously exhausting all our domestic tent stocks. We feel that as much as we give, it's always too little at this time. So our primary and initial requirement is shelter. And going forward, obviously, then, as I mentioned, medical support, food supply support for children, breastfeeding mothers, aren't able to do so at the moment. So milk. These are the sort of priorities that we require. But at the moment, our first priority is tent, and our second priority is tents, and then we're looking to sort of ration and medical supplies.
You've deployed the army, I understand, but as you say, this has been going on and getting progressively worse since June. This death toll is sort of from the period of June. Has the international community, have aid agencies stepped in already?
Yes, absolutely. International organizations are working on the ground. Our own NGOs are working on the ground. Our governments are working on the ground. But I think everybody's resources are stretched to the limit. Everybody's capacity is stretched to the limit. I mean, if you think about the human resources of those, the teams involved in rescue and relief since June up until now, those teams involved in training water from various areas, they're physically exhausted. Their own houses, their own homes, their own offices are also devastated. So this is a calamity that everybody is facing and experiencing at the same time.
And in terms of whether there is going to be some kind of lull in the rain or for rescue efforts to continue, is that looking likely over the next few days, or is that going to continue?
So as far as the rain is concerned, there is a lull as far as sort of the floods from the sky, if it were. But the floods that could potentially come from up north is what we are now bracing ourselves for.
And Bilawal, tell me, are you expecting this to get worse every single year as we see conversations around climate change, heat wave here in Europe, and they're saying we're not going to go back to what it was before, this is the new normal. Is that your expectation here for the monsoon season in Pakistan?
So I certainly hope that this is not a new sort of annual normal at the very least. But as far as climate change is concerned, it's a very difficult, grim picture from Pakistan's perspective, because overall, as far as the international global carbon footprint, Pakistan has not contributed, I think it's even 1% of that figure. However, we are amongst the top 10 climate stress nations on the planet. This year alone, we started with a drought. We missed our spring, sort of at springtime. We had 50 degrees centigrade in areas in Pakistan of the same very province. We had water scarcity issues. And then as soon as we entered June, we had an early monsoon that has been ongoing for extensive periods of time. And now we're bracing for flooding from northern areas.
Devastating situation there in Pakistan. Thank you so much, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, for taking the time to speak with us at this difficult time.
Thank you for having me.